I'm Bev Miller, and welcome to Addictions Unplugged. Each week, my co-host Dr. Vera Tarman will answer your questions and concerns about addiction. Tonight, we're going to be discussing recovery and rehabilitation. The path to both of these is a long and difficult journey for many. Tonight, we'll discuss different treatments and what's available to people in Toronto. Recovery and rehabilitation. Are you looking for guidance or help with either one of these? Call us with your questions and concerns. Dr. Vera, can you explain to us about recovery and rehabilitation and how the two work together?
Okay, well, recovery is, in a way, it's a state of mind, or it's a decision, or you might want to see it as a goal. And rehabilitation is the means to get to that goal. So if you feel like it's time to change your lifestyle in terms of drug use or drinking or something like that, I mean, recovery can mean anything. It's really up to the person how they want to define that. But they're moving from one place to another and have a different vision of how they want to be. And then the rehabilitation, again, which can look different depending on what choice that what venue you choose, is like it's like the action steps towards that goal of recovery. That vision.
I used to think they were one and the same, recovery, rehab. But I guess I've heard people say, I'm in recovery.
Exactly.
So it means that I'm in that state of mind towards moving kind of thing.
Yeah. And even that's an interesting distinction that you've made, because some people say, I'm recovered, and then a lot of people say, I'm in recovery. And in a way, that's a bit of a controversy there, because
can you ever be fully recovered?
Well, that's the whole question. That's the whole question.
Uh-huh.
And on that level, it depends on how you define addiction, because some people will say that you can never be fully recovered, so you have to say you're in recovery, and others will say, no, this is something that you can actually recover from and then move from and lead a normal life afterwards, even to the point where you may even be able to pick up the substance, let's say if you're an alcoholic, and drink again, but moderately.
So that is possible.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's possible, but that's the controversy.
Okay.
It really depends on who you talk to. I personally don't think it's possible if the person is truly an alcoholic or truly an addict.
All right.
But that's where the controversy lays, or one of the many controversies. In a sense, one of the many minefields in addiction.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So there are different types of recovery. There are different types of rehabilitation.
That's right. Yeah.
So the different types of recovery then?
Well, then you see, then you have to decide what is, in a sense, it's like, what is your vision of what you would like to be? And if your vision is to, let's say you're an alcoholic, or no, let's say you're just a problem drinker.
Okay.
Let's not give it a name yet. And your vision of recovery would be that instead of drinking 6 drinks a night, I'm going to just have 2 a night. Or let's say I'm an addict of some sort, and rather than smoking cocaine or something like that, I'm just going to drink instead. That's actually better, because at least I'm not, doing illicit behavior. That might be your version of recovery, and that would be acceptable if that's the goal, if that's what you're setting out. And so then the rehabilitation is going to look different, because you're going to seek a type of treatment program that will support that goal.
And so the different types of rehab then,
Yes.
can we talk about those?
Well, sure. So depending on the goal that you have, like I think that every, my sense is that every alcoholic or drug addict would like to be in the kind of recovery which means that instead of using this much, which is getting me into trouble, I'll just use this much, which means I'm not getting into trouble, but I still get to use a little bit. I think that's what everybody would like to have. Whether it's possible or not remains to be seen. But if you want to try for that, then you would do a different type of program than the other kind. That kind of program would fit under what we call a rubric of harm reduction. And harm reduction programs, of which there are many in Toronto, would be one where you would go and say, I'm not going to try to be abstinent. I'm just going to try to moderate my use or make it safer. I'm going to reduce the harm of my use. I may even still want to keep using, but I want to use safely. So you have like a program that gives you
free needles.
Free needles, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, I don't know about those.
Well,
I guess from an outsider looking in and thinking, how is that going to help?
Because you're imposing the abstinence point of view, which is that abstinence is the best point of view. But if you're trying to take a more, I guess, liberal or moderate approach where you're just saying, look, my goal is just to make the person, if they they want to use, that's their human right. That's their human, dignified decision. We need to honor a person's decision. But we, certainly me as a medical professional, can provide something so that provide an avenue or a venue so that it's safer for you to be able to do that.
Okay.
So I give you safe needles. In some cases, even I'll give you the drug, but in controlled. I mean, in a sense, that's what the medical marijuana is, really. It's an example of that.
That's true.
You know, I'm going to give you something, but it's in a very safe context, so I'm reducing the harm.
Right.
And that would be considered recovery for somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you in recovery? Are you in rehab? Give us a call and share your story with us tonight. So, you know, just talking about that harm reduction, does that work?
It depends on what your goal is.
Okay,
if your goal is to use in a more safe context, yes, it works. I wish I could remember the program. It's I can't remember right now, but there's a really good one. Hopefully it'll catch in my mind.
Okay.
But if you go to a place that has a safe injection site, or they give you like clean crack pipes, or they give you, I mean, there's a medication now that if the person has an opiate overdose, you can actually retrieve them and save their life. So that's a person that has made the decision that they want to keep using, but they're using in a safe context. And does that work? Yes, it works. We've saved their life. We've prevented HIV. We've prevented Hep C, you know, all sorts of other conditions. So yes, it works. But you're probably coming from a point of view of the person wants to stop. And a harm reduction program probably won't work for a person that wants to stop.
Okay.
But so you have to kind of know what you want ahead of time, which a lot of people don't know. Because they just know, I want to get out of the mess I'm in.
Exactly. Are you in a harm reduction program? Give us a call and tell us about that tonight. Okay, so if I do want to stop, not just the harm reduction stuff, I want to stop.
Yes.
What kind of rehab do I need to be in?
Well, what you'd need to do is you'd need to find the various treatment centers. I mean, first of all, you probably want to check out a detox, because a detox is a place where people often go to kind of dry out, because when you go into rehab, it's a pretty intense program.
So detox is different from rehab?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first step?
Right.
Kind of?
Well, it can be. You may not need a detox. If you're drinking excessively, or you have an opiate addiction or something, and you can't just stop without having withdrawal symptoms. And the withdrawal symptoms can be anything from 3 days, 5 days, to even 2 weeks.
Wow.
And you don't want to be in a rehab where you've got to, you know, wake up in the morning. They're usually pretty rigid.
Okay.
8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
While you're, you know, sitting on the toilet all the time.
Exactly.
So detox takes care of that angle.
Okay, so that is the first step. They won't accept you into rehab before you've been detoxed?
Often rehabs will say you can't come in for, until you've been clean for 72 hours. And a person might often say, understandably, how am if I could do 72 hours, I wouldn't be calling you in the first place. But that's where detoxes fit in.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with detoxes, what happens is the beds can be empty, and that would be great, but it's kind of you don't know, because they might be full as well. You know, there's a tendency in Toronto to have beds that are full and then not. Summertime, usually there's more empty beds than in the winter. But you see what I'm saying?
Right, right, exactly. Are you in rehab? Is it working for you? Give us a call tonight and tell us your story. So then, okay, so talking about rehab, it's
so
not, go ahead.
Well, so there are a few rehabs, and I think once you know, like we have some numbers like Central Access, which will actually tell you where you can go and get a detox. But there's other places, because the rehab industry, of which it is pretty big and it's pretty complex. And you don't really expect people to know what they're doing unless they've been in the system for a while.
Okay.
You know, you pull up the internet and you go, oh my God, there's so many, which ones do I choose? But we actually have some referral centers. We have, like, for example, we have DART, I can't see it here. We have Mars Metro Addiction Treatment and Referral Service.
Okay.
Like, these are places where you go and you say, this is my issue, I want harm reduction or I want abstinence, and then they'll help you work that system. Because you have to kind of know what you want.
Okay.
You don't want to go into a rehab that is proposing one, and in fact you want the other. We do have abstinence-based treatment centers, but you kind of have to know which ones they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, don't most people not don't most people, but do most people want to stop?
Honestly, I think most people want to stop their miserable life because drug use and alcoholism eventually becomes misery making.
Yes,
There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Some people know intrinsically, intuitively that they have to stop to get out of that mess. But I think probably everybody at some level, at least at this first stages, wants to know, well, do I have to actually stop? Can I just control it better? You know? Because, you know, it's like nobody wants to give up their favorite thing. I guess it's the idea of I want my cake and I'll eat it too. But some people learn more quickly than others. I can't do that. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you in that recovery mode, that recovery frame of mind? Give us a call and let's talk about that. So recovery then, the different types, free, paid?
Well, that's another thing. There are some services that are free. Detoxes are free. Well, actually, even detoxes you can pay for too. It's a two-tiered system, really, in Ontario or in Toronto for sure.
Do you get more if you pay?
If you pay, you get quicker access.
Oh, quicker access. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, some of the big centers, Renaissance, Bellwood, Homewood, these are the big abstinence-based treatment centers. All have government-funded beds, but sometimes you have to wait a year, 2 years, and that window period of I think I'm ready to quit doesn't last very long.
A year or two?
Yeah, sometimes it lasts 3 hours, 4
but that's
hours.
Ludicrous.
Well, yes, it is. But if you have money, then you can get in tomorrow. You know, so you can get a bed because they usually put beds aside.
But how much?
But actually, that's not even true. Some places, like if you want a specified program, like a trauma and addictions kind of setup, then you might have to wait a bit longer, even if you're going to pay, because there's only a limited number of beds.
That is really incredible.
Yeah.
Are you in rehabilitation or are you in recovery frame of mind? Give us a call this evening and let's talk about that. So then, payment. I think I asked you this a while ago, and I was astounded at how much you can pay for rehab.
Yeah, it depends on how long you're going to be in there for. I think that probably a structured program, the shortest that I've seen now is about 3 weeks, but you can be in for as long as 10 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and so then the price goes up.
Right.
But I think we're looking at, I don't have the figures in front of me, but it's somewhere around 1,800, 20,000, maybe more.
Wow.
30,000, depending on how long you're there.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
We've got Raul on the line. Raul, did I say your name right? Raul, are you there? Or maybe he's still coming. Raul, do you have a question for us?
Oh, yeah.
There you are.
How are you guys?
Good, good. What's your question for us, Raul? Thank you for calling.
Doctor, I have a question. You spoke earlier how recovery process can be, I guess I would say, willowed down to an abuser who is now acceptable in the medical eyes to be a steady user, but not as aggressive as they had possibly been in the past.
Yeah.
And that applies to alcohol and driving.
Yes.
So for someone who has been perhaps 10 years away from drinking heavily, who was never insured and did not drive, and went through a system of the medical system, and how does that apply now for someone who wants to regain their driver's license and just essentially the identity, and someone who is now an honest citizen and a passive user of the drug?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to be more specific if you don't mind. Are you talking about yourself or somebody that you know who actually lost their license because of drinking?
Does that matter?
Pardon me?
Does that matter?
Well, it's just I want to get the scenario. Let's just pretend that's the scenario, because it...
You know what? I'm going to have to just jump in right here. We've got to go to break, but Raul, stay on the line with us, and we'll talk with you after we come back. We'll be right back with more help on Addictions Unplugged. Welcome back to Addictions Unplugged. I'm Bev Miller, and joining me each week is Dr. Vera Tarman. Today we're discussing and taking your questions on recovery and rehabilitation. Are you seeking help to give up an addiction? Or perhaps you're a recovered addict and would like to share your experience? Give us a call with your questions or tell us your opinion. Now we have Raul on the line. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Okay, continue. What were you two saying?
So let me just play out the scenario, and if I'm not answering your question, then you can correct me. If a person has lost their license because of drinking, however long ago it was, and they want to get their license back, the Ministry of Health requests that you get an assessment made essentially to ensure that you're safe to drive again. And that assessment may require that you have sobriety. It depends on the actual assessment, and that assessment will be based on the person and what their history is. Like if they say, yes, I used to drink, but now I don't, the assessment may require that the person actually have to go into rehab, but if it's a long time ago, they might just ask for blood work, which you can kind of tell by some blood work parameters how the person's history of drinking is right now. And if a person's had a history of a seizure, then you may have to actually see a neurologist. So it's an actual process of getting your license back, and it's actually quite costly to do so.
Interesting.
Yes, this person has been through the process.
Yes.
And this person has revealed that the process of the medical community was capable to have their license back.
Okay.
And then, a year later, the driver's people said, you have to prove that you are sober now. That was never stipulated in anything in writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question to you was, you said earlier that there are people who could go through the process and wane off and be successful people in the world.
Well, yes, that's a possibility if that person was never an
I believe it's 12% of the population can do so.
You might be right about that. I mean,
I am absolutely right. I've been through it. And by the way, it is me.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, thank you.
No, hang on. So my question is...
Yes. So, you know, you can have, it's quite possible that a person is not an alcoholic, but that they were a problem drinker at one point and they no longer are. But I can say that the Ministry of Health will err on the side of caution. And they
That's my question.
Yeah, they will.
So then what are you talking about?
But
you are a doctor.
Yeah, what I'm talking about,
and you have an opinion that says people can't get by. And I know the number is actually 12% because my doctor said so.
Yes, yes.
So my question to you is, will your thinking be applied to someone who cares to have a driver's license, who doesn't do that anymore, who still has to go through a test and be completely clean of alcohol 12 years later just to get a driver's license?
It's got nothing actually to do with necessarily with the doctor's opinion. The doctor who does the assessment is just one contributing factor, but the actual decision is made by the Ministry of Health, which has another bank of doctors that are looking at it. I can appreciate that it can be frustrating, but that is, it's kind of out of our hands. We do what we can. You're right, not everybody has a problem, but it's in the Ministry of Health's hands. They will always err on the side of caution.
Okay. Raul, thank you so much for your call. Thank you for watching the show this evening. Are you in recovery mode? Are you in rehab? Do you want to share your story with us tonight? So, you know, going back to rehab, well, actually, fast forwarding a little bit.
Yeah.
Or perhaps it's not even fast forwarding. Before rehab can even, you know, get going, before recovery even, interventions. You know, we've heard stories about people, you know, gathering the family together and all of that and posing an intervention. Do those work?
Well, that's a good question, whether they work or not. I used to think that they didn't work because there's a sort of understanding in the addictions community that you really have to want to stop, because it's really hard to stop when you don't want to stop.
Right.
And people often, there's a part of them that doesn't really want to stop, but they have to be what we call hitting bottom. They have to be hurting more than their want to stop. Or that they're still wanting to use. And if they haven't heard enough, they're going to keep thinking, is there some way that I can still keep using? So an intervention is an imposition by you want me to stop, but I don't know if I want to stop.
Exactly.
Or, you know, the Ministry of Health wants me to stop, but I don't know if I want to stop, or the Ministry of Transportation, rather. So I used to think they're kind of useless, but actually, in my experience, especially at Renaissance, where I see a lot of people who are there because they have to, because they want their license back, or they want their job back, or they want to keep their wife. And I thought to myself, there's no way, this person isn't interested. But 3 weeks later, after they've heard everything, they've learned things, they've heard the counselors talking, they do a turnaround. So I actually think that it's worth it if you can. It's certainly not as good as somebody who comes and knocks on the door and says, I'm ready to stop.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can be costly too.
Right. Do it, but maybe not with the expectation that it's going to work.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people where they will put their house on the market. Like no, they'll get a mortgage so that they can put their kid into a rehab because they're sure this is going to do it.
Wow.
And I don't know about that.
Okay.
Because
All right. Well, we've got Craig on the line. Craig, are you there?
Hi, I am. How are you?
Hi. Well,
Okay.
what's your question for us, Craig?
Well, I don't have any questions. I was just calling to speak about my personal experience. I have been sober just over a year now.
Congratulations.
And I didn't go to any treatment program or didn't have any intervention or anything like that, but I just, woke up one day and, decided that drinking and doing cocaine and that lifestyle, I felt bad every time I would do it afterwards. And it's just very easy to get sucked into that cycle because you feel crappy, so you go out, you do it again, you do it again, you do it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I made the decision myself. You know what? I was sober over a year, and then just recently I was on vacation. I'm like, I'm gonna have some fun or whatever. But you know what? After doing that, I just realized, you know what? It really isn't worth it, and you feel so much better afterwards. You're so much more in control of your life, which gives you a certain kind of high that you don't get from
drugs.
From anything else, right?
Yeah. So
and I just want to let other people know that I'm young. I'm under 30 years old. That you can do it. You gotta have the want and desire inside. But there's tons of programs that are out there. I didn't use any personally, but I know my friends that have used lots and tons of them. And
so Craig,
there's still life to live after.
Craig, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. What was you said that you woke up one morning, you just made the decision. Was it something that happened that made you turn around like that? I mean, what was that thing that made essentially changed your life?
Well, one thing. Okay. Well, I did have to get. I started getting a deviated septum from my cocaine use, right?
Right.
So I did get a septoplasty done to correct that, and then after a couple of times, or after I had gotten that done, I had went out and used a couple of times afterwards, and I'm like, you know what, this isn't good. Like I can seriously mess up my nose.
Yes.
I got strep throat and had to go into heavy antibiotics, and that's basically what stopped me from drinking. And then I'm like, I tried to quit doing cocaine without. I tried to quit doing cocaine, but continued to drink, and it would always come back into my life, and I'd always beat myself up for it afterwards. And I'm like, why don't I try something new?
Right.
Why don't I quit drinking? Then I'm not going to put myself into a situation. Because for me, with drinking, it would make it so much easier to twist my arm, you know what I mean? I'd throw all my inhibitions out the window.
Right.
I'm like, sure, let's do this, let's do that.
That's what happens. Alcohol's a great gateway drug,
For me, it's, I don't know. Like I said, I did go on vacation and for 2 months, and I was traveling in Central America, and I did experiment again down there, but
coming back to the city, I went out once here, and I'm like, you know what, this is not a lifestyle I want to live, and I have so many things I want to do with my life and goals with my life. And
so you made the choice actually that you could stop, and you did stop.
Exactly, and that's what I find is
great.
That's so empowering. That if you make that decision, any decision you make in your life, you can accomplish it. Yes. All the power is within yourself.
For sure.
Wow.
Now you know one of the things.
That's powerful, Craig.
Yeah, it is really, it's really powerful, and I'm really glad that you did it at your age, because you said you're under 30. One of the things that happens though, if a person, I don't know if it would be Craig's story, but if a person continues to use, or if Craig had relapsed and went back to using, is eventually that decision becomes harder and harder to impose.
Right.
And it's actually my experience that what happens is that people, they get their first one pretty easy, their first sobriety, and then when they relapse, it's a little harder to get back on the wagon. And then if they relapse again, it gets even harder, and it just gets really hard. It's part of the addictive development.
Right.
That addiction is a chronic progressive disease, and there comes a point when a person says, I can't, I want to stop, but I just can't. But it is my experience that if you get it the first time and stay, it's not that hard compared to later on.
Fantastic.
So Craig, stay on the wagon. You're doing great.
Craig, good for you. Thank you so much for calling, Craig. Do you have a story of recovery or of rehabilitation? Give us a call tonight and share your story with us. We've got William on the line. William, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Awesome. What's your question or your story?
I guess my story is, I'm a 50-year-old man and pretty successful, but I drink quite a lot. I can drink anywhere from 2 to 3 bottles of wine a night. My job has a lot of high pressure behind it, and I've gotten to a point where I know it's bad for me. I know it's hurting me. It's started to erode my life, but I'm a little unsure where I can go to be honest with people and not have it collapse my life around me.
Okay. Well, William, are you at a stage where you want to stop, or are you at a stage where you want to see if you can control your use? Because that's 2 different venues.
I agree with you that I wish in a perfect world I could stop, but I know that I can't. But I would love to be able to reduce my usage of alcohol.
Okay. Okay.
And eventually get to a point where I could stop.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that would work. But can I just suggest to you that if you're asking for where you could go, excuse me, a place like CAMH has actual programs. Like you would just call CAMH and ask for the substance abuse program. And say that you want to speak with the people who have I don't remember what the actual name of the clinic is, but they'll teach you how to drink moderately, or that's the program. You go in there, it's an outpatient once or twice a week. You go and you say, I drink 3 bottles of wine, I want to get down to 1 bottle of wine, and then they'll actually help work you through that. I don't know if you can say I want to taper down to stop, but you can try that too. But the other thing, William, is you said that I really want to address is you said, I don't think I can stop. And there are programs that will help you stop. And they are quite effective if you're willing to go for that. But it's a commitment.
That's excellent. And William, I think that's really wonderful that he's cognizant of the fact that right now, you know what, I can't stop, but I sure want to decrease.
If one thing I could suggest, I don't know if you've gone to any 12-step meetings like an AA meeting, but you don't have to. You can just say, I'm going just to check it out. I don't know if I want to stop or not. I just want to hear. And what you'll do is, they have open meetings and closed meetings. And if you go into what's called an open meeting, you are in no way committing yourself to saying you're an alcoholic. You are just a member of the public checking it out. And then you'll hear people talk about how they did stop and how they did it. Just because it'll give you hope, because it sounds like you don't know that that's a possibility. You have a whole avenue of, or plethora of options here, and I'm glad you called because there's already 2 that I can tell you about.
Fantastic.
CAMH and AA, or Renaissance, is a 12-step program, an abstinence-based program, which will help you stop.
Great.
Yeah.
William, does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much, ladies.
Excellent.
And I salute you. This is the first time I saw you on TV, and I called into you, and I appreciate your help. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Be encouraged, William.
Thank you for the bravery to call.
Exactly. That is awesome. Well, do you have a story of recovery? Are you in AA or one of the other 12-step programs and you want to share your story with us? Give us a call. We've got Lorna on the line. Lorna, are you there?
Hello?
Hi, Lorna. Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
To both of you.
Hello.
And to you. What's your question?
The question is for the doctor. I have a family member,
Yes.
37 years old,
Yes.
who has been addicted to crack cocaine for a long time now.
Yep.
I've finally had my fill, and I've had to ask him to leave.
Yes.
It's very upsetting to me.
Yes.
But I think that if there was a way, and I think maybe the doctor might know, if there's a way that someone can get him from the street and put him in the program. And I did hear you say that you can't force people.
Yeah, you can't.
I think he needs a bit of coaxing. You know, once I've taken him to Renaissance before.
Yes.
That's in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Brooklyn, Ontario. Twice he's been there. And when he came out, he went straight back to the street.
Yeah. See, he wasn't ready yet, obviously. Yeah.
But I think I'm watching him, and I see that he's barely skin and bones now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever he's doing is affecting his whole physical structure.
For sure.
And I don't know what else it's doing to his brain.
Yes.
But I think I need to maybe go to the courthouse, because I've heard people say this, a judge can put them in a program.
No.
Is this true?
No, I don't think so. No. If a person, if he were to be arrested, sometimes what they'll do is they'll make a deal with the person and say, rather than put you in jail, if you agree to treatment, then you can go on probation and you can go into treatment, and then we can see what will happen. But you can't actually initiate that process. Lorna, you are in a situation that I appreciate is very frustrating, but it's very hard to see a loved one deteriorate in the way that you're seeing him. But there is nothing that you can do other than to be a continual support, and not at your own expense, though. Like, it sounds like he was living with you and you've asked him to leave, which I think is the right thing to do. But you want to be a support, remind him that there is hope, and then you have to let go and just let him come to that place himself. You can't force this. I mean, it's not like you can commit. I mean, I understand what you mean. It would be nice, like you might be able to commit a schizophrenic person who's deliberately hurting themselves or not deliberately, whatever. But we can't do that with addiction. We have to let the person come to it themselves. It's very frustrating. I would almost suggest, Lorna, that you, I don't know if you've heard of Al-Anon, but it's a community of people, another 12-step program that helps people in your situation live in this very, very difficult situation. So how can you continue to be a support, but not at your own expense?
Right. That's a good point. Lorna, are you there?
I'm trying to listen to you at the same time.
Yeah.
But I have gone to a group such as the one you've just mentioned.
Okay.
But I ended up being there without him for a couple of years by myself. And it wasn't intended for me because I'm not in the situation that he's in. But, I mean, I found it very informative and I got to like it and I enjoyed, expressing myself.
Yes.
But it proved fruitless for what I needed it for.
Well, but it sounds like what you wanted it for was to get him to stop using drugs, and that's not what it's for. It's for you to have peace of mind in this almost impossible situation that you're in, to watch somebody that you love deteriorate. But you cannot stop that. There is nothing that will help that, unfortunately, other than just getting support for yourself as you endure that situation and pray that he'll change before he dies. I mean, quite frankly.
Yeah. This is a really hard one, Lorna. You know, we can hear the angst in your voice, and we appreciate that you're going through a really terrible time with this. But as you said, there is nothing that the family can do. The person has to want it for themselves.
And they have to be willing to do it for themselves. So he went into the program for 3 weeks, and it's nice and contained and safe. In a sense, things are being done for him, but then he has to go out and actually do it for himself.
Yes.
And Lorna, you're not alone, because for every addict that's out there, there's family, there's a whole community that's being affected and is suffering, having to watch. Nobody likes to watch this happen.
Exactly.
It's very painful to. sit back and say, it's your life. But unfortunately, we do not have the control over somebody else.
Absolutely. Lorna, we want to thank you for your call this evening. We want to encourage you and also to, keep seeking the help for yourself that you need to be at peace with this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise this can be very destructive for someone else looking on and wanting to help so badly.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Lorna, thank you so much for your call this evening. Do you have a story of recovery, of rehabilitation? Call us and share your story with us this evening. We have on the line Serge. Are you there, Serge?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. What is your story?
I'd like to say thanks. And my other thing is the treatment centers that we go to. I've been to a couple of them.
Yeah.
And there isn't much of actual what they call treatment. You get a bed to lay in. There's food there to eat. And there's a table to sit around and talk. Towards actual treatment, I mean, to sit at a table and for everybody to say, well, yes, I have a problem. I mean, we all know that before we went there, you would think. But I don't see, like, where you're getting an actual treatment for, like, for the problem you're there for.
Yeah.
I'm an opiates user. I've gone there. And after, 7, 8, 10 days, I kick myself in the butt back out of there because I've been sick for so long at the toilet, and I just say to myself, I've had enough.
Yeah.
And I end up leaving.
Yeah.
A few years goes by, and I go back.
Yeah.
And it's been a revolving door.
Well, okay, so Serge, let me just say, I mean, it sounds like you probably should have gone to detox before you went into rehab, because if you're still on the toilet stage, you're too sick to be able to take part in any kind of treatment. But you're right, there are different types of treatment programs. Like there are some that are really posh, and you get to, I mean, equine therapy, horse therapy, I'm being kind of facetious here. That's apparently what they do in the States. If you've got the money, you can do all sorts of different types of treatment. There are some programs that will have like trauma therapy, they'll have cognitive therapy, they'll have all sorts of different therapies. And then there's other programs like Renaissance, for example, which is very 12-step based, and they don't have that kind of stuff because that's not their mandate. You have to kind of choose where you're going. But I will say, Serge, that a lot of times people will say that they got their best treatment from their co-addicts, the people that in their group, because they're actually able to share their own experience from somebody else who's been there too, and you get to say, this is what happened to me, I don't know what to do, and then the next fellow says, that happened to me and this is what I did, and that ends up being just as powerful as anything else.
That sounds good. Serge?
Yeah, like for me, I'm speaking out of my experience.
Yes.
Like it just seems like when I've been there, most like half of the people there are homeless, and they just keep coming in and out.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I've seen is it's just I can't get any medical help while I'm in there to get me to stay there.
Right. It really depends on where you go, because it is true that some people will use treatment, especially the government-funded beds, as a way to get off the street and kind of clean up, get some sleep, get some food, and then they're going to go back out. Like research said, the revolving door. That definitely is part of the situation, but that's only one type of treatment center. There are others, and I would suggest that you shop around in that case, because I'm kind of guessing I know which one you're talking about, I mean, they're not all like that. And often what you're describing is more of a detox, which is not treatment. It's just not. It is often a revolving door. People are going in just to shower up and sleep, and then they're back out again. And that's fine too, because that gives them an option to do that.
All right. Serge, was your concern answered there?
If there's any way of me getting any info on another one,
yeah, I would.
Where they actually have.
Well, I would suggest Renaissance for one, because they have quite a number of government-funded beds. It's not that long to wait. If you have, I don't know if you've checked out Harbor Light at Salvation Army, but that one too. Not the detox. I'm talking about the treatment center itself. Those are at least two that I can think of right off the bat. But you know that if you look under DART or Mars, it'll be on the web. It'll be on the monitor. If you ask them, if you call that number and ask them, get an assessment, they'll actually give you other options. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. It's the website there, and it's on the screen right now, Serge. DART is on the screen. So thank you so much for your call. Serge, be encouraged. Thank you for watching. Do you have a story of recovery or of rehab? Give us a call tonight. We have Jacqueline on the line. Jacqueline, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Wonderful. What is your concern or your story for us?
Well, I want to say, first of all, how super it is to watch these programs with Dr. Tarman leading. I'm used AA for recovery. I didn't realize at the time how ill I was, but when I fell through the door, I was told to go through 3 meetings a day and get right in there, get a sponsor, pray if I could, and be grateful.
And did you do all those things, Jacqueline?
I had no choice.
You see, that's...
I had absolutely no choice.
Yeah.
And that was 23 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful. Okay? And I just want to say thanks.
Thank you so much for your story, Jacqueline. I mean, it's helpful for other people to hear that there is hope. I mean, you fell in the door, and it sounds like you were desperate enough. You said, I had no other choice, that you were willing to do 3 meetings a day. Now, that's a lot. That's a commitment.
Right.
And like what we say about, you know, one of the things is, you know, which recovery program works better than another. It's actually been proven that none of them actually work any better than the other, truthfully. You can go to a religious program, you can go to AA, you can go to CAMH, which is, you know, more secular. They all work just as well if the person does the program, if they actually do the work themselves. And somebody who's willing to do 3 meetings a day is doing the work. But if you go there and you just hope that it will somehow magically happen because you're there, that's not how it works.
No, you've got to make that effort. And you did that, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for your call, Jacqueline. Have a good night. Do you have a story of recovery? Give us a call tonight. Sunita is on the line. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Sunita. What is your question or your story for us?
My question was, my son is addicted to alcohol.
Yes.
And he's taking also medicine for schizophrenia.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to put him in a program so he can, you know.
Does he want to go in the program himself?
He doesn't want to go in the program.
No. Does he want to stop using drinking or using his medication?
Yeah.
He does?
He doesn't take medication every day.
No.
Only whenever he has, you know, problem, then he takes medication.
Yes.
But every day he drinks.
Yes.
Like $20 beer, every day he drinks.
Does he want to stop drinking, though?
Pardon me?
Does he want to stop drinking?
Oh, no, he doesn't want to stop drinking.
No. So, again, it's the same as the other caller. You know, but he's living with you, correct?
Yes, he's living with me.
Yes. So, I mean, you're kind of in a situation where you're wanting somebody to do something that you can't make them do. You just simply can't. You may... I appreciate that you want that. Really, the only thing that you can do is make a decision about whether you can still have him live with you if he's drinking. Sometimes you have to say, you can't stay unless you stop drinking, and the person might stop, but they might not, and then you'll have to let them go. You're again in that situation. It's the family dilemma. That's why there's a whole 12-step program just around that, of having to say, I want to be here for you. I have to take care of myself. I cannot make you I can't make you stop drinking. So, Sunita, what are you going to do if you are in that place where you realize you can't make the person stop? What's your next step?
I don't know. I'm going to take him to India and put him in a rehab center. Like I can forcefully put him in a rehab center.
Okay. Yeah.
And they want to let him go anywhere for 2-3 months.
Okay.
And maybe.
And that might just do it, you know. Like again, so that concept of the intervention. Like you know, it's not as likely to work, but it might. If you've got the means to do that and he has the willingness to go, it's worth a try. And you know, sometimes people will do 10 treatment programs before they finally get it. Just because if he doesn't get it the first time, if they have the willingness to go or you have the means to help them go, keep trying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sunita?
Yeah, no, but he
Yes?
doesn't want to go in any program.
Yes, you're kind of in a problem there because you can't make somebody go.
Exactly. He's not ready
And
yet.
he fight with me, like if I don't give him money.
Yes.
And then he won't let me go to the work in the morning.
I think the best thing for you, Sunita, is that you're going to have to stop what we call enabling him by giving him money, letting him stay at your place, because it's going to wear you down in such a way that you will be of no use to him. I mean, truthfully, you're not helping him now by continuing this. It's I wish it were easier.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's really a hard one.
Especially it's your child, and you feel you have to. But
I know.
So what should I do? Like if I stop giving him money, he will fight with me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's, if I can be blunt with you, it sounds like he's got you wrapped around his fingers or his hands. And yes, and it's very easy to do that when it's your mother or it's your family member because there's that emotional tie. But you can say no. What he'll do is he'll just find, he's, I don't know how to say that, but...
yeah, I called police so many times, but that did not work. Like 10 years, I'm struggling with him.
Yes, yes, you're going to have to say no and stick with the no. It's not going to necessarily make him stop using, but he'll stop taking your money, you know.
this is a very difficult one.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Sunita.
Is there any medication that I can give him so he won't be craving for the alcohol?
I didn't hear
Is there any medication that you can give so that he doesn't crave the alcohol?
There is some anti-craving medication, but he has to want to stop using. Like the anti-craving medication won't work if he doesn't. It's the same as rehab. None of that stuff works if the person's not willing to use it. If he doesn't really want to stop, he's not going to take the medication. There is stuff that you can do, but they have to be willing. They have to be a willing participant. And it's actually not that helpful. It's helpful to some degree, but what's much more helpful is just the willingness to do 3 meetings a day. Like our previous caller wanted it, so she was willing to do the 3 meetings a day. If you don't want it, you're not even going to be willing to take the medication.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sunita, we want to thank you for your call. And we want to just encourage you. That's a very difficult situation that you're in, but thank you so much for watching the show and certainly be encouraged. Well, we do have another caller, but we'll have to get James after the break. But this is a really difficult one.
Yeah, it is.
With respect to family members
Absolutely.
wanting to get in there and help, and there's nothing we can do,
No,
you're saying.
That's right. That's right.
Oh boy, we'll be right back after the break with more help on Addictions Unplugged. Welcome back to Addictions Unplugged. Today we're discussing and taking your questions on recovery and rehabilitation. And we have on the line with us Lena. Are you there? Lena, do you have a question for us?
Hello. No, I don't have a question. I was just listening to the lady before, and I've been through exactly what she is going through.
Okay.
So my son has schizophrenia. My son was addicted to cigarettes and weed. And I had listened to somebody from Focus on the Family in the U.S. I don't know if you know that channel. And what he said was that you have to show them tough love. You cannot give them money.
That's right.
So what we did is we didn't give him any money. Everybody in the family stopped giving him money. Not Christmas, not birthday, nothing.
Yes.
So I literally used to sit in my car and watch my son go on the street and pick up cigarettes and look for weed. And I used to cry. It broke my heart.
Yep.
It took me 3 years, but I got him into a program. And I got my pastor involved and everybody talked. But you have to use, the doctor said to me, you have to use a certain kind of emotional blackmail with them. Find what they like. My son likes home, so I gave him a choice. I said, you either stay home or you leave. But your choice is you have to go into a program. If you go into a program, you can stay at home.
Yeah, I mean, Lena, what you're doing is you're just counteracting his emotional blackmail to you. I mean, you're just counteracting that back. I think you're absolutely right. Tough love is I mean, what is the incentive for the person to stop using if the parent is still letting the person stay in their home and pay the money and all the rest of it? There's no incentive. They've got it going great. And, you know, you're the one that's suffering. So I think you're absolutely right. So what did end up happening when you got him into treatment, eh?
Yeah, so we got him into Ontario Shores.
Yes.
They have a beautiful program. You have to commit to 12 weeks minimum.
Yes.
For young adults. But I made a deal with him. I said, if you go into this program, I'll bring you home every weekend, even though the doctor said it's going to be really hard because he was in crisis. He was just like talking to himself, hearing voices. It was very, very, very bad. But I said, no, I promised every Friday I'd bring him home, take him back on Sunday. And it worked. My son is normal today. This was just a year and a half ago. He was in Ontario Shores for 6 months.
Great. Thank you, Lena. Thank you for that story. That's a really good thing for the for the family to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a story of success. And I hope that the previous caller was listening. Lena, thank you so much for sharing that story with us this evening. We have James, our final call of the day, as we are wrapping up. James, what is your question or concern or story?
Yeah, first I have to congratulate you guys for this wonderful program.
Wonderful.
You should be more than that.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
You know,
Thank
it's very
you, James.
educated. It's very, very send a very good message.
Very good.
All addicted person who's ever. Maybe I consider myself as one. Oh, my question. My question is, I'm 50 years old. And I went through for the past 3-4 years. I lose my dad, I lose my sister with this, you know.
James, we've only got a couple minutes. Can you get to the question? Because we don't. I don't want to have to cut you off.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes for you, James.
My question is like the only thing that relaxes me. I work 13, 14 hours a day.
Yes.
Sometimes depends. And the only thing relaxes me is have a couple of beer in the afternoon.
Yep.
And every time I find myself having a couple of beer, I'm so free-minded that I always give in to everything.
Okay.
How can I control that?
So if you're only drinking a couple of beer a day and you don't feel like you need to have more than 2 beer a day, for a man, 2 beer a day is actually safe. It's not considered dangerous drinking. It's beyond that, unless you're going to drive. It's when you do more than 3 or 4. But if you find that you want to keep drinking beyond that, then that's where it's a problem. But James, we're going to have to cut you off because it's just about time we want to do that one other question.
Right, exactly. James, we just want to thank you for calling.
Thanks.
And for watching the show. We have one last call. Tony, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Tony, we've got 1 minute for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying that when I first went into recovery, I've used alcohol and drugs for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And when I first went into recovery, I went into rehab and they kicked me out because I wasn't doing the work. And it was in Homewood in Guelph, and it was Dr. Graham Cunningham, and he was a tough old codger, and he himself was a recovering alcoholic.
That's
and
right.
He said, look, we got someone,
and
you're wasting a bed, get out, do the work or get out. So
and
I just wasn't ready, but I did go back and I cleaned up and I've been sober for over 8 years now.
Excellent. So you clearly did the work.
I did.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great note to end on. Wouldn't
That
you say
is a wonderful story to end on. Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing that. There is hope.
Yeah.
People can do this.
Yes, it's good to hear some of the messages of hope,
Absolutely. I remember you and I had talked previously, and you had mentioned that the rate of success for rehab is really quite low.
Yeah, it's actually pretty low, and it doesn't really matter what you look at. I know that people have been, especially of late, talking about how AA isn't very, it's only 10% success rate, but that's actually the case for pretty much any treatment. And really the variable that makes the difference is the person willing to do the 3 meetings a day, willing to go back to Homewood and follow, you know, Dr. Graham Cunningham's suggestions? Are they willing to do the stuff that they got to do? That is the,
exactly.
it doesn't matter what it is that they're doing.
That's the thing. What's the thing that you like to say before we leave?
The power is ours. Take it back.
Take it back. All right. Good stuff. Thanks. That's a great show. We're out of time. On behalf of my co-host, Dr. Tarman, and myself, thanks to all of our callers. Thanks for watching the show. We will see you all next week.